Welcome back to the PC Engine Files, and I'm your host, Mr. MegaManFan. Once again, we have a game that was not ever published in the United States, exclusive to the PC Engine in Japan, but would have been very easy to play on a TurboGrafx in North America, and is of course easy to play if you have a region card converter. But what I meant by easy to play is not that it's easy to play in your system, but that it's an easy game to play because it's a vertical shooter. This would have been very easy to port. There's not even really any languages that need to be localized here because you're just shooting. That's it. Let me read you a little from Hardcore Gaming 101, since there's not even a Wikipedia entry. That's how obscure Psycho Chaser is. Ahem. Japanese game developer Sting is most famous for the unusual combat systems in their various RPGs, as well as for creating the gloomy cult adventure game Baroque. Their first game, though, was a little-known PC Engine shooter called Psycho Chaser. Made by only 5 people, it's an impressive debut that already shows off the strong atmosphere and unique power-up system Sting's later games would be known for. The game's programmer, Shinichi Abe, is also the main programmer for Baroque, and the other 5 members of Sting that made Psycho Chaser stuck together for a while. While Psycho Chaser was originally published by Naxet, most of Sting had previously worked for a variety of developers and publishers. The most notable would be programmer Toyofumi Kunihiro, who designed Xevious Fardrout Saga for Namco, as well as the excellent PC Engine port of Truxton. The premise of Psycho Chaser is pretty basic. You control an android, the titular Psycho Chaser, sent out by humanity to destroy an evil AI that's out of control. Along the way, you fight a nice variety of enemies, consisting of flying drones in the air and mutated life forms on the ground. Compared to other shooters, Psycho Chaser's protagonist feels very powerful, a slowly marching robot rather than the futuristic aircraft one normally plays. His default weapon is a rapid line of fireballs that quickly destroy almost anything in their path. The trick is that enemies will approach you from all sides, so you can't afford to let any survive for long or you'll quickly get cornered. So you have 3 other more specialized weapons you need to quickly switch to and from to destroy them efficiently. There is also plenty of debris you don't want to run into. While touching the scenery won't damage you, it's very easy to get literally trapped between a rock and a hard place if you're not careful. And I think you can see that from my gameplay footage as well. Particularly in this first stage, you've got several waves of enemies that sweep up at you from the bottom. So if you're using your straightforward shooter, you have to lure them all the way up and then sweep underneath them to knock them out. But if you switch to your, I believe, 3rd weapon, maybe it's the 4th weapon, but if you switch a couple of times by hitting the 2 button, you get a homing weapon that makes these enemies a lot easier to deal with. Psycho Chaser. You know, as shoot 'em ups go on the PC Engine / TurboGrafx, it's neither the best nor the worst. I mean, Hardcore Gaming 101 is not wrong that your titular robot feels quite powerful. Look at the way I just destroyed that boss with ease. But that's actually sort of my gripe with it, is that I like some difficulty in a shoot 'em up. I don't want it to be like obscenely difficult to the point where I rage quit, but I also want it to be difficult enough where it's like, oh damn, I almost had that right. If I had just hung on to my power-ups a little longer, I wouldn't be underpowered at the restart and I wouldn't be screwed now. So I'm going to go back and do that pattern again. And this time I'm going to remember where that enemy was. And this time I'm going to avoid that bullet fire. I'm going to do everything better than I did the last time. That's what I like about a shooter, is when it rewards you for being adaptive and learning. And as you get better, it gets more challenging. And as it gets more challenging, you get better. It's a feedback loop where you improve as you go through the game, and the challenges get more rewarding because you're getting better as you go. Whereas if you just get ridiculously overpowered to the point where you've got a full spread of missiles and a weapon that can blow through any boss, and you just march relentlessly as this titular psycho chaser does, then where's the challenge? I mean, that's like an auto run level in Mario Maker. It's clever, it's fun to watch, but you're not really doing anything. A shooter should make you work for it. And I'm not saying there's no challenge to Psycho Chaser, or I wouldn't have just died and had to restart there, but this feels like one where if you use the homing missile weapon in particular, it can get ridiculously easy because you can almost, aside from the ground obstacles, of course, you can almost stand in one place and fire and hit everything. And you don't even have to mash the button repeatedly. You can actually just hold the button and it does the firing for you. So I'm kind of left in a bit of a quagmire here because I don't hate Psycho Chaser. The graphics look pretty good. The sound effects are pretty good. The gameplay is, want to guess? Pretty good. There's nothing terrible about it. And by the same token, I can also say, even though this would have been an easy game to port to TurboGrafx, there's just not a whole lot that says this would have been a bestseller. This would have made a ton of money for everybody involved. Sting, Naxxitsoft, NEC, anybody that was releasing this game in North America would have made I guess they would have made a small return on their investment, but the TurboGrafx was already third or fourth place in the market, so to say there was a huge amount of profit to be made is ridiculous to begin with. And then since this is just an average shooter at best, I don't know that it really would have caught on with the public and gone viral to the point that it had been like a bestseller with 1 million copies and common to get on eBay now for a few bucks. You know, it's just, it never would have been one of those games. It would have had a niche following, it would have made a small amount of money, and for everybody involved, it was probably just like, eh. It's not like there's a hit anime series to tie this to, either one that's been dubbed into English for the US or one that's a cult classic in Japan. There's just nothing marketing-wise that would make this a hit. And it also just isn't that rare of a title either, even in Japan. You can get loose copies for 20 bucks, complete copies for 25. In fact, I just looked right now, and there's a US seller with a copy for 25 bucks, which might sound like it's a little bit of money, but compared to a lot of PC Engine and TurboGrafx games, 25 bucks is actually kind of on the low end, because these games get stupidly expensive really fast. So Psycho Chaser is not that rare, not that in demand, and not that overwhelmingly like, oh my god, you have to play this. To me, it's just the very definition of the middle ground as far as this console and these games go on the PC Engine files. It's good enough. Like, if you have the Super SD System 3 and you want to try this game out, download it, try it. I don't know if you really want to spend the money to buy it. I just don't think it's necessarily worth going the extra mile to own a physical version of it unless you're super dedicated. But it does stand out as a game that never got released here, so it's not well known and worthy of discussing on the PC Engine files for that reason alone. But I wouldn't go out of your way. It's just there. The TurboGrafx, the PC Engine, it has a lot of good shooters on it. In fact, a lot that are way better than this particular game. So hunt down those games instead. I'm Mr. Mega Man Fan. Thank you for watching.